All right, all right, all right. Hey, everybody, this is your coach, Naira, with the Heal on Purpose podcast hosted by the Repair of the Black Family. Tonight, I am super, super excited as we bring before you another person that is going to add value to your life, that is going to actually help support and facilitate what we support right here on the Repair of the Black Family as it relates to eradication of generational drama, and limiting beliefs. If this is your first time here, I am Sister Naira, known as Coach Naira, and I am the founder of the Repair of the Black Family, along with my husband, Brother David Muhammad. And as you come in and you're watching this particular powerful broadcast that we're so excited to bring to you tonight, we're going to ask that you go ahead and share the broadcast. Make sure it get out to many, many people because I'm sure you're going to enjoy the topic of conversation. In addition to that, if you are watching, okay, there we go. If you're watching via YouTube, go ahead and like the channel. Make sure that you like the channel and send it to someone else as well, and leave us comments on in regards to tonight's program. So this is how I know that this program going to be powerful, because I never get calls during my podcast. However, it has been distractions all day. And when I know that distraction shows up, it tells me that I'm doing something absolutely magnificent. So again, I do apologize that my phone keep ringing and knocking me off my computer. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this tonight. If you are here, let me know that you're here so that we can go ahead and get this conversation started. Tonight, I'm super, super excited because we have Sister Empress Filet Chia. She gonna get on me. She just gave me a whole history lesson on how to say her name, but we're gonna get that corrected tonight. I pray that she forgives me of that. She is the originator. Come on, y'all. The originator and architect of the historic Million Woman March, and president in general of the Universal Million Woman World March and movements. I'm excited and happy and honored to have her on the program tonight, because I recall as a young girl, as a young lady, with my mother getting on the bus to go to the Million Woman March. And as we are just coming off the cuffs of this historical time period, or this time period that we're in as it relates to mothers, I felt and know that it is befitting to have one of the mothers of civilization right here on this podcast tonight. And so tonight, I ask that you, if you have any questions, make sure you drop it in the comment section. If you have anything that you would like to know about the Million Woman March, many people want to know what happened to it, what's going on with it. Well, tonight, your questions are going to be answered. So I am not going to delay anymore, and I hope that she gives me another tutorial on how to say her name. But mispronouncing her name does not depreciate her value. I'm going to say that again. Mispronouncing her name does not depreciate her value. So let me bring in on the stage. Are you ready to receive Sister Empress Filet? How are you, my beautiful sister?
Greetings, greetings. I am just wonderful. With all things considered.
Right? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. With all things considered, I'm so happy that you said that, because we went through a time trying to get this together. But where two or more are gathered, there's
Oh,
power.
yeah,
There's power.
right.
So I've
But,
introduced.
when I also say when all things are considered, I'm also saying, when all things considered, living in America.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I can totally agree with
With
that.
all things considered, with all that's going on today, and that will be going on in the next couple of years, with all things considered, I really believe that the divine people are now positioned to do some incredible things.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Which brings us to our talk tonight, the resurrection of the original woman. And so I'm so happy that you
Yes.
are here on the call tonight. And I know I'm introducing you to some, reminding others of who you are, but really presenting you to a whole new community that may know not one thing about you. So, my first question to you, Sister Empress, is how did you get on this journey as it relates to your power, your passion to move 1 million women? What started you out? Like, where did your love for our people ignite? And what age were you?
Wow. Well, probably at the age of maybe 7 or 8,
Mhm.
realistically. Meaning, and again, I always tell people that, often I hear people say, well, I wasn't taught this, or I didn't know about that. And I'm like, well, me either. But
Mm,
somehow instinctively, I knew I was Black.
mm,
Okay. I knew that just based on what I was able to see as a child. I saw how our people, how our mothers, our fathers were being treated. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what that was in reference to or the reasons. I knew nothing about Africa, or I knew nothing about nothing. But I knew instinctively that something was very wrong. And so my parents had sent their children to Catholic school at the time. And for some reason, I was very unruly because of the people who were my so-called instructors, teachers, with the, um, the what they would wear, the nuns, etc. And again, I didn't know anything about race. I didn't know anything about slavery. But when these people were engaging with me, I just knew it felt very bad. I did not like it. And so what children do often when they can't express themselves, they act out. And I did.
oh,
So in first grade, the so-called sister, that's what they call themselves, sister, so-and-so, told my mom, oh, you're going to have problems with her. I'm like 7 to 8 years old, whatever age you are in first grade. And so they kicked me out of Catholic school.
wow.
So to answer your question, when did I know? Probably around that time. I just didn't have all the pieces in place to, to understand.
Yes, ma'am. Wow. And so you said you was around in the first grade. Do you have any brothers and sisters?
Hmm.
How many brothers? How many sisters?
I do. I have millions. And the reason why I say that is because, what I've learned is we talk about our biological or nuclear families, and that's fine. But the person that I was then is not who I have become over the years. And as a result, my kind of interaction, understanding, and connection with the Most High is based on the family of our people. And so that's what I really relate to in this day and age. So my brother,
Understood.
my sister, right? I mean, I just have to keep it real. I mean, for some, they may have had an experience of a certain type. I have a very good relationship with people, our people, who might not have been as fortunate to have a biological family, a mother, a father in the home, and brothers and sisters. So rather than me focusing on, I have these mother brothers and my brothers are the Black men who have helped me to rise up, and sisters.
Understood. Understood. I definitely can agree with you with myself coming up in the Christian faith. I came up in the Christian faith. I went through the Christian faith, right? It didn't take anything away, but I'm now in the Nation of Islam. And I do understand, when you're connected by the blood and you're connected by the spirit, right? And so,
Right.
I
It's totally
understand
different.
when
Yes.
you come to the body of what I would say, coming out of the church experience, the body of Christ, right? And I understand that we have
Right.
many brothers and sisters, that don't come through our parents' womb, but we're just as much as blood or brothers and sisters as our blood brothers and sisters. So I totally can relate to you as you say this, and understanding that we are, and let me know if you agree with this concept, that we are connected by consciousness. Our
Absolutely.
our
And
consciousness.
again, I relate that. Sure, sure. And I relate that to also our ancestry. Um,
Mhm.
I would not be able to say and do what I do in that regard as a people, if it had not been for those who have come before me, because those are the examples that I now embrace and exemplify. So absolutely, it is the spirit. And for me, that supersedes a lot of other things. So yes, I totally agree.
Yes, ma'am. So as you can see, you're on this show, and it fosters healing, right? What would you say for that brother or sister that didn't have that family, or they're not connected to the way that you are describing in this context, being connected by the spirit, or being connected in consciousness and being connected to our ancestors, but we know in the Black family we have a sense of being disconnected. What can you say to speak to that?
Know thyself.
Hmm. Come on
See,
now,
and I
expound
know
on
that's
that.
like, well, again, in knowing thyself, a lot of those answers are there. And as it's been said, seek truth, and the rest will truth will help you to find freedom. Truth will also give you insight, information, and a lot of that is within yourself. And so when you know thyself, or begin to know thyself better, you are also able to heal thyself.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. And look, I'm a sitting as a student on the call too. Okay. I know I'm interviewing you, but however, I'm sitting as a student on the call. And for those that's coming in, again, we ask that you go ahead and share the podcast, drop a question. If you like what you are hearing, drop a fire, drop something. Let us know that you are with us. We do have people also listening on YouTube. And you said something very profound. I didn't really understand that, or and get the concept, or even really hear it to the degree that I know it now, except when I came into the Nation of Islam. Know thyself,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
And I heard
mm-hmm.
also our dear mother, sister Queen of Four say, heal thyself. But if you don't know thyself,
Mm-hmm.
what questions do one
Mm-hmm.
ask to begin to that process? Because we're living in a world, and I know you know this, Sister Empress. I'm just talking, right? We're living in a world where our culture, for the most part, in this generation, don't have the knowledge of themselves. And we know that we're still operating off that lost knowledge. What would you say to that? Like, how do you say know thyself? How do I begin to do that if I don't know anything without knowing the Lord side?
Well, again, I didn't know either. I didn't know anything about nothing. Okay, you didn't have access when I was coming up. You didn't have access to your phone, an automatic encyclopedia right at your hands. You didn't have all of that, and you certainly didn't have people. At least I didn't had people around me of a certain type. So when I say and when I say know thyself, there are certain things that are innate. And what we do know is this, that usually around a certain age, everyone goes through something, right? This is why when you understand, overstand, as some say, the system, at the ages of 12 and 13 is when certain levels of accountability begin to go into effect. Then when you get 18, there's another level. Then at 21, so somewhere between 12 and 21, most folk begin to experience something. And usually at that point, they're beginning to ask questions about things. So again, whether you know about this, that, or the other, life tends to force you to begin to examine various things, be it your surroundings, be it injustice, be it your behavior, be it somebody else. So again, whether you are consciously aware of certain things, your environment, your interactions, or whatever is going to, or situations, circumstances, is going to force you into some kind of situation. At that point is when most folk begin to ask questions about life. And what I'm taught and others is, seek and you shall find.
You better say
Now,
it.
you might not like what you find, right? But you're going to be forced to seek something. And once you start traveling down that road, then you can begin to discern and make certain types of decisions at some point. And so I'm just saying, seek and you shall find.
Absolutely. Wow. I'm gathering data as you're speaking. And that is very powerful. Seek and you shall find. And you said at a certain point, which means you're coming through something, maybe as a young adult, right? A child, or even an adult, right? Seek and you shall find, but you got to ask
Sure.
questions to learn all about yourself, which brings me to this point. How important is it to have a village? And what does a village looks like in 2025? Because, and I'm going to preface it with this statement that I would like your answer. The scripture says it takes a village to raise a child. True. Does it take a village to raise an adult? So there's two questions. One, how important is it to have a village in 2025? What that looks like. And two, does the adults, as an adult, do we need a village?
Well, of course. Wow, that I can go in so many directions with that question with a variety of answers, but I'll say this. In seeking and finding, keep in mind that things tend to function on multi-levels. So there's the external and then there's the internal. So when you say, do we need a village? Absolutely. But that first village or that first construct is you. You see, even when you talk about a nation or you talk about a temple, you're not talking about an external entity. I mean, you are in some regard, but your first temple is you. So it gets into, yes, you need the village, but that village you need to first, again, know thyself. For example, this is your physical body. What things should your physical body be doing? Or what things should you not be doing to your physical body, your temple? So before you start dealing with an external, or simultaneously, you have to look at this being, your so-called body, as well as the external. Because in doing that, then you kind of can bring it together. See, to me, that's a holistic approach. So yes, we do need the village that is externally a part of our being. But what about the village or the connection or whatever you want to call it that is within? What about that? How is that being nurtured? You see? And so this is why I always, in the teachings or the instructions or classes that I give, I deal with it from a holistic approach. It's on at least 3 levels simultaneously: the mind, the body, and the spirit.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Now, when you talk about being a teacher and being able to feed our people the knowledge of themselves, you have done something so powerful and historical before we actually get into the topic
Mhm.
of the resurrection of the original woman, which I do know that is tied into that. But many of us may not
Mhm.
know or and remember at the forefront of our minds this historical Million Woman March. What brought that about? And give us a little history on that. And how did that relate to the Million Man March?
Wow. Okay. So when I went to college not to go to college because I wanted to really, uh, you know, have a so-called profession or whatever, whatever. I went to college because I wanted to be a part of what I thought was a movement of people doing things. I used to see, different, either if not films or read books or whatever, and I thought that some of that was still going on. Unfortunately, when I got to college, most of that had dissipated greatly. So the 1960s and the 50s were gone by the end of the 70s and the 80s, right? So I went to college because I really wanted to be involved in the movement. So I was a religion major because for my whole life, I always knew that the Most High would be calling me to do something. So I figured, well, okay, since I want to go to college, let me go to college because I want to be, if not the first, one of the few Black women theologians. I didn't want to be a
Mm,
minister. I didn't want to be a reverend. I didn't want to be a doctor. I wanted to be a theologian. You
mhm,
see, my aspirations were always of a higher level, you see, and that's about as high as you can get in that field. And
mhm,
so I was the only undergrad at that time at Temple University that was this complexion.
mhm,
And
mhm,
once going through those processes, I realized that, oh, this is not for me because this right here stuff, I had enough already in my training and learning with that, which I did independently myself, reading and so forth. I knew that whatever was going on in the institution was not what I was seeking. So I ended up leaving college and then focusing on my own independent study, whereby I studied many of our greats. Uh, you know, Chancellor Williams, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, J.A. Rogers, uh, many. And so that's how my travel began in really developing different aspects of theology all across the
mhm,
board.
mhm,
Chancellor Williams, it's so many. And so I'd been doing independent study for several years. Then my brother and I opened a center and a bookstore and so forth called Stiltwalkers. And it had all kinds of books, art, traditional kinds of things, not what you're seeing today. A lot of this stuff is not even knockoff stuff. It's just
mhm,
stuff. But we
mhm,
literally would make certain we would get authentic art, both jewelry, both in the artifacts, etc., cloth, and so forth. Bottom line is that when the Million Man March, well, I'd been to many different demonstrations and all that from the time being in college up to my later adulthood. But when the Million Man March happened, that was one of the first kinds of refreshing things that I'd seen in our community on that level. Because when I came into the struggle, into the movement, that was always there. It
mm,
was just wonderful the way our people would just do things all the time. And don't let there be an issue. Oh my gosh, folks was like on it like that. But after COINTELPRO and other things, then that energy just died. And by the way, I'm in Philadelphia, family, and on this day, 40 years ago, a bomb was dropped in the city.
mm,
It killed 11 people.
mm,
60 homes went up in flames, and
mm,
200 plus people became homeless.
mm,
Everything destroyed. Now,
mm,
most folk know nothing about that, which shows you how much we embrace history for real. But
mhm,
I'm saying that to say, once that happened here in Philadelphia, the energy, the fervor, the activism and other things, it terrorized our community. And then people just either gave up or just didn't want to do certain things. So when the Million Man March came in 19, now note, that was 10 years later. The bombing happened in 85. So while many are familiar with Tulsa in the 1900s, most don't even know that in their own time realm, a bomb was dropped in the city. A C4 incendiary bomb on this day, by the way. Now, I'm saying that to say the Million Man March for me, it helped to rekindle some of the energy, some of the excitement that I was introduced to coming into the movement, into the struggle. Because, you know, I was a student when people here were lending support to fight apartheid in South Africa. I was a young student, but I was around people like that all the time. You see, we would bring Kwame Ture to our campus or Dr. Maulana Karenga to our campus. So I was around this all the time. So then after certain things happened, you didn't see it anymore. So again, the Million Man March was very inspiring. Even though I had already been doing research, developing certain initiatives and so forth in our community. I took my sons to the Million Man March. And my brother and I already had, as I said, a cultural shop. So I stayed where the vendors, where the merchants were, and the men would off, you know, to the actual location, right? But again, I felt the energy. So, and most don't know this, but you will see it in one of the publications that I'm putting out soon. Came back. That was on a Saturday, I think. Oh, I don't remember what day, but came back. A few days later, I called Chicago. I called the nation and I said, you know, I want to know about the Million Woman March because I want to get involved. I want to, you know, volunteer, do whatever, because, you know, it was so exciting and wonderful. I just want to be involved. And the person on the phone said, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. And that's not anything that we're doing or thinking about or whatever. I said, oh, okay, no problem. So then I thought about it and I said, okay, maybe it's going to be the female group, the women's group that was very much, you know, involved, which was the National Council of Negro Women. So I called Washington, D.C. And again, whoever it was that I spoke with said, what are you talking about? And then I had what's known as an epiphany. I heard a voice go, if not you, who?
Okay, hold that thought right there. I need
history.
the whole audience to hear that. You had an epiphany. So that, to me, that says a divine thought. If not you,
that's
who?
right.
And so we have to be so in tune, connected, that when God is giving you something, sometimes we're looking for somebody else that was divinely ordained for ourselves. And that's what I just caught from what you just said. If not you, who? And then what?
That's right. Well, I got scared. I'm not going to, you know, deny that, you know, I doubted myself because I could not imagine. I mean, I'm hearing this and I'm like, and I started naming women that, you know, I had known over the years or I read about or whatever over the years. I didn't necessarily know them personally, but I knew their work. And that in my brain and in my spirit said, nope, because, and after a while, it was like you either step up or step off.
Woo! Wait a minute.
And so
wait a minute. You said step up or step off. Come on, y'all. I hope y'all getting this. When you get divine revelation, you better step up or step off.
You step off, right? Because you can't see at some point in your growth and development, you can't have teachings and read books and been involved in whatever, and then that doesn't manifest into something, because then it becomes too hypocritical. And so when you're confronted with, okay, you've gone through this, brought you through that, you've read this, you've done this, now what?
Now what?
So here it was. It was here, this is your next step from whatever. And I was like, okay. And so people say that they submit, but when you're put in a position of a certain type, because I didn't know what I didn't know, what to expect. I didn't know what to do, but I believed in the Most High. I knew that. I didn't know nothing else, but I knew that for sure. And I said, well, I either believe or I don't.
Mm.
And I did.
I either believe
And
or
then I
don't.
did.
And then I did.
Right.
Yes.
And so you can't keep saying it and then confront it with your belief and then act like, well, no, you either believe it or you don't.
Yes.
So that became a moment in time. That became the moment of truth.
Mm.
And so I had to either step in or step out.
Mm-hmm.
And I stepped in and then I stepped up.
Mm.
And so the largest gathering in the world became into fruition. 2.5 million was the estimated count. Now, here is where it got real interesting.
And you're saying that was for the Million
Never
Woman March?
before. Oh, yeah, this is the Million Woman March. Yeah, like none other. And this is why it's disturbing for me today that our own women don't know their history of something of that magnitude. Meaning, it's not only Black history or African American history, it is not only women's history, it is world history. And here's where it gets really, it's etched in stone. Why? Because it happened in the 20th century. And so forever, the Million Woman March will forever. If somebody came tomorrow and did 50 million, it's okay. Because we're not only the first, for the 20th century, we're the only. We are etched in stone. We will always be the largest gathering in the world of women anywhere in the 20th century.
Woo, wait, hold on, Sister Empress. You can't drop that and then keep going. I need the audience to duplicate what was just said. I need us to feel what was just said. I want us to, to take it in, do your fact checks, look it up. But we have an icon right here on the Heal on Purpose broadcast. I'm so grateful. She reached out to me, y'all. I'm so honored, right? She found Sister Naira, and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get this story out. Because the first thing she said when she was telling me, Sister Empress, bear witness if you can, you was telling me about you was the originator of the Million Woman March. And I was like, oh yeah, my mom went to that. And I watched from afar, and she said, you a Million Woman March baby. I said, well, there it goes.
Baby. That's right. That's right. So, those sisters who were, we say from in the womb, because sisters came that were pregnant to the Million Woman March, 1997, October 25th. So women came who were pregnant. Women came that brought their 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old. So all the way up to, like around 18 or so, we call them our Million Woman March babies. So now we created a whole new unit just of that group, because those who were in the womb, they're now 25 years or more. Those who were a little older, they're now in their 30s. So you got your own particular unit for now, the Million Woman March. And they're saying this Million Woman March, baby.
Okay. Oh, I heard you. Now, being that this was the largest women's march in the 20th century. Ever. The largest. The first. The largest.
That's right.
Coming off the cuff.
And no. Yes, but note this, because a lot of times people get confused. It was specifically for Black/African descendant women, not all women. And I'm unapologetic about that. That was
unapologetic.
No, that was for us. That was for us.
For us. For us, by us, is what I hear.
That's right.
Yes,
Yep.
ma'am. And I can see how that march would facilitate, the idea that was floating around in the sky of the repair of the Black family. And maybe I'm just
Absolutely.
one of them babies that received it and gave birth to it. On that note,
Absolutely.
yes, ma'am.
Hmm.
And
Well,
so
you
now
know,
this.
with that said, sisters, let me just give you a quick sidebar from a historical perspective again. So I'm the founder, originator, architect of the Million Woman March, right? I am also connected to that. I was a co-convener as requested by Minister Farrakhan for the Millions More March. I was a
Mm-hmm.
national co-convener.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, I'm connected to, and I was also national co-convener for the Million Youth March, but I'm the only sister who was literally connected to 3 major marches.
Wow. Wow. That was going to be my next question. How did the Million Woman March connect you to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? And did you have a conversation with him about this? Like, what was the process in that? Because this came off the cuffs of such a powerful movement with the men, and now we have the women.
Right. But see, notice, because unfortunately for brothers who were, shall we say, a little less supportive or confident in their own manhood, some of them felt it necessary to say, oh, they're just trying to copy off of the brothers, and not recognizing that what we were talking about was not feminism. I don't buy into that. I've never advocated for it. I'm a mother. I am the original mother. And therefore, they should have recognized that whatever we were talking about and doing, of course, was to bring unity and strength to us as women, but it never separated us from our families and communities. And so we could not get the kind of, shall we say, embracing from some, because we were saying women, but yet they didn't have a problem when the brothers said they was going to come together. But they had a problem with the women coming together, which I understand, because particularly in the ideas of patriarchy, this is one of the issues that we'll get into at another time. But to answer your question, my sister, what happened was I had been organizing underground for a whole year before I made it public. So for the entire year of 1996, only a few people knew that I was organizing. I made it public in 1997, in February of 1997. Shortly thereafter, I then, of course, reached out to Mr. Farrakhan to request his support, or the support of the nation. And he gave it to me pretty much right away. And so at that point, I also then invited Mother Khadijah to be a speaker, along with Sister Ava, Minister Ava Muhammad. Okay, and since then, or after the Million Woman March, I had been invited to meet with the minister on several occasions. I had dinner with him at the palace on numerous occasions. And so we were able to develop a very good relationship, I guess up until maybe the past 5 years or so, as kind of situations change, meaning, unfortunately in many situations, which is why I am very careful about, like, for example, when you call me, I pick up the phone. When the brother called me, and by the way, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Brother Lamar, because we would not have been connected if it wasn't for Brother Lamar. So big shout to you, Brother Lamar. But I'm saying again, right, he's the one that really, facilitated this, and I'm thankful, but certainly, of course, of that. But I'm saying that sometimes we get in situations, and I understand that people have to be protected, but sometimes people also get in the way. And what I mean by that is, usually when someone calls me, I'm going to pick up my phone. I'm not going to just wait for someone else to relay that message to me, because sometimes internally that can be a problem. And so unless I'm really, 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 really like doing projects that I cannot be disturbed with or whatever, I'm going to respond. And I know that Mr. Farrakhan can't do that, but my point is, and we have to be truthful and honest about how and why some of our movements become either stagnated or as not as productive. And some of that has to be with how things sometimes are functioning internally.
Thank you for that. And my next question is, as it relates to, I appreciate your comment. Thank you. My next question, and for those that's listening, we're interviewing, but we're also going through a historical lesson, right? And as I'm listening to you, I'm listening to what you did, the power of what you did, you know, the fall and the rise of movements. I understand that. And actually, what comes up into my heart and into my spirit as I'm listening to not just this movement with the Million Women March, but different things, I understand that dynasties or empires are destroyed from within. I understand that. And so we have to be students of history. We have to be students of present time in order to create a better future. So it's all about perspective and how we receive information. And what I'm receiving right now, I believe, is divine lessons, right? With the understanding that everybody has their own experience. Come on now, right?
Yes.
And with experience,
absolutely.
Experience becomes teachers for the individual and for those that are watching the story, right? And I'm watching your story right now as I'm listening to you, as I'm interviewing you, and really you're taking me through a walk in history that I truly believe is not just healing for me, but it's healing to our audience, because everything starts with the mother of civilization, right? And you
there it is.
being able
absolutely
to, yes, ma'am. And you being able to bring, let's not forget this now, step up or step in this conversation, 2.5 million women, Black women, okay, and that was in the struggle unapologetically. I got what you said, unapologetically. You was able, I mean, I don't know who can do something like that, you know, that can bring.
And see, that's why and how it was kind of after a while it was hurtful, because people talk about, you know, belief and this and that. But the reality is that here's something happens right before your eyes. When have you seen and I mean from all walks of life, I mean from all religions, from all economic backgrounds, from all educate, you name it, we had it. We had Dr. Dorothy Height as a speaker. We had Faith Evans, who at that point had just lost Biggie. We had Jada Pinkett Smith at that time. We had, Malcolm X's daughters, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Congressman John Conyers, and Mother Winnie Mandela. So there was something for everyone. No matter what level you were on, there was something there for you that you could relate to. Now, here's the thing that's really historic and notable. We are the only gathering that had more than 500,000 that did this. We had no corporate sponsoring. We had no benefactors, which means nobody stepped up and said, I'm going to make a large contribution. And I didn't already have an already existing organization. So that meant I didn't have people already stationed or based to facilitate. I had to make that stuff happen. It wasn't already there, you see? So imagine that. Imagine not already having a network. Imagine not having any money. I emptied out my own personal bank account to start everything. From the first stamp and envelope to the first fax. I emptied out my bank account. And then, of course, we raised monies afterwards by selling T-shirts, dinners, you name it. But there was no other resources coming in. We raised it all. And I've never had corporate sponsoring then or since.
That sounds
no
like
major benefactors.
That sounds like love to me. That sounds like love for a sisterhood.
And also what I was taught. And it's also what we were taught. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad and others taught us to do for self. They taught us self-reliance. Madam C.J. Walker, Annie Malone, and so many others showed us that you must do for yourself as a people and not depend on other people. And we demonstrated that, you see. And so, again, for people not to recognize that that was definitely divine, I mean, it was like, okay.
Well, you have every kind of people that watch and read every kind of story. So as I'm listening, I can hear it's totally divine. And so as we look at that part of history, and we are in this process right now, talking about healing on purpose. And when we talked and had the conversation, we talked about you wanted to express, which I agree, the resurrection of the original woman. Why resurrection? Why that particular word?
Well, if anyone really knows about the Million Woman March, there was a theme. Most never took the time to even know that, to even look at it closer. But I called it the 3 R's. Because for people, particularly if you knew someone in the South, an older sister, older woman, years ago, and even here in the North, but they usually came from the South, the grandmoms or whatever would say, girl, child, you gotta know your reading, writing, and arithmetic. Reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? And so I captured that essence, the teachings of these women in particular. And I created what I call the 3 R's. And the 3 R's was for us. Now, the Million Man March was atonement. Ours was the 3 R's. And it was, a part of that was resurrection. You see, also restoration, right? So resurrection was literally a part of the Million Woman March. It was one of the 3 R's, right? And so now what we're seeing with our women, see, I strongly believe that our women have gotten too weak. We also are going backwards now. During the 60s, we were Black and proud. Now we want to be rainbow in such a way that it distracts things. And again, I'm an artist also. I've been a choreographer. I've been a poet. I've been a writer of music. And so I get creativity. But when it begins to distract you from your essence and being, that's a problem. And so what we're now seeing is things that really needs to be addressed in a very diplomatic, but a very real manner. And I'm just saying again, to not know of your own essence, to not know of your own attributes, your own essential elements. And many of our women do not. They don't have a clue about who you are, who we are. We are the mother. See, I'm not just a part of the mother of civilization. I am the mother of civilization. You see, as Black women, that's who we are. And until we step up and represent in that way, I'm not saying don't do you or other things, but of course, there's 360 degrees that we recognize. So of course, you can have 10, 40, 100 degrees of your being, and you still haven't got to do the whole thing, you see. So I'm not saying don't do this or don't do that, but what about the original, the fundamental you, which you also represents universe, you see. And so to deal with that from a universal context, and this is what the mother of civilization represents. It encompasses all of these. Yes, everyone is a part of being our child. But at some point, mother has to give special attention or a certain type of attention or whatever to one or the other of their children.
Correct.
Right now, you see what I'm saying? I mean, I have children. There comes times when I've got to do more or less or whatever based on that child. Right now, as the mother, the child that looks like us in terms of melanation, they've got to now have our attention.
I agree. I agree. You know, it's so many distractions that's out in the world, you know, and like you said, during your time period, we didn't have the phones, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all of these things. But now I find as a young adult woman raising 5 children, 9 grandchildren, right? And being of the movement, the struggle, right? Helping to bring in a universal government in which we all can live, we're being socially engineered through
Well, that puts it mildly. Yeah.
okay,
That
yes,
puts it
ma'am.
mildly,
Absolutely.
sis.
Go ahead. You tell
Right.
me. I'm
You
I'm
know,
willing to listen and learn. That is my word, but
well,
let me hear from you.
you know, for these past 25 years, I've documented a lot of things that we were taught. And so at this stage of the game, yes, you're absolutely correct, but it's beyond engineering. And what is about to happen is the next steps of genocide is about to take place in terms of our people. We are humanitarians at heart, and in all that we do as Black women, melanated women, whichever you prefer. And I say Black for a reason, because again, I deal with physics. I study physics. And so the only thing out there that they call a hole is a black hole. They ain't got no yellow hole, green hole, red hole. They got a black hole that encompasses everything that comes to it. That wasn't said coincidentally. That was for a reason. All right. So when I talk about Black, I'm talking about in the context of an essence, not in the context of a nationality, because I've had those debates and arguments too. I'm talking about from a fundamental idea and concept of the universe. That's when we talk about the mother civilization. That's who we're talking about, and bringing forth that kind of energy, synergy, you see, because like you said, sister, in healing, here's the thing. How? With what? What tools? What remedies? What antidotes? How? If we can't identify that, then how are we going to make that happen? So with the Million Woman World March coming, we will present what we are bringing forward to help heal, but also not to just to help educate. Here's a word for everyone that you might want to, if not interchange, at least add on to your concepts of education, which for me often is just indoctrination. But we're going to what I call and others call edify. The edification of our there you go. See, we raising the bar.
Edify me. Yes, ma'am.
That's right. We're raising the bar, sis. So that's why, going back to what you were saying about engineering, it is now at a point that it's beyond that. With AI, this is going somewhere else. And as Black women, I'm telling our sisters, we got to step it up, because our enemies, they got a plan. Do we? That's why we're doing the Million Woman World March, so that sisters we can now develop. Yes, we can now develop our own codes of conduct. We need our own everything. Our own everything. This is what our teachings have shown and taught us. Lastly, for those who do not know, we're creating a curriculum, a Black women's history and development curriculum, because a lot of history about our women, most have no clue about. And it shouldn't be like that in this day and age. For example, do you know that in 1951, approximately 7 women, Black women, put a call out called the Call to Negro Women. Now note, 1951. The call to Negro women was for women to come together. See, again, Million Woman March, we did our homework. We looked at things before us, particularly as it pertained to our women, like Callie House. We call her Saint Callie House, 1800s. So as many are talking about reparations today, do you know about Callie House? Most know nothing about her. Who fought for ex-slave compensation in the 1800s. So even though it wasn't called reparations, it was to be compensated for your work. Now that's 1800. So let's fast forward again with what I was saying about 1951. 7 Black women, roughly 7, decided after seeing lynchings, after seeing the rapes of Black women all over the country, they decided to come together and put a call out to Black women to stand up and speak out. So in 1951, they put a call out in September, and only maybe 200 note 1951, but 200 women came to Washington, D.C. To demand to meet with the President of the United States to talk about the lynching of Black men and the rape of Black women. That was 1951. And they marched in 1951 in Washington, D.C. And they did get not a meeting with the president, but they did meet with one of the president representatives. This is 1951. So we have to ask ourselves as Black women, what are we really doing? I mean, are we educating our children ourselves? Are we sending our children to usually an enemy every day, 5 days a week, sometimes, 7 hours a day? And if not the enemy per se, a system, a educational curriculum that definitely is not to their advantage. So as Black women, we are part of the problem in that we are not taking the time and effort to do the work to make sure that we in fact are able to educate our own children, ourselves with our curriculum, etc., etc. Here we are in the 21st century. Our people used to have schools 100 years ago, and we can't show that today. The Honorable, and we call her, by the way, Saint Sister Clara Muhammad, showed us in the 1930s because they would not send their children to school and went to jail. And here we willingly give the enemy our children. So I didn't mean to go off on that, but
no. I get it, and I'm fully understanding what you're saying, which lets me know, and I see it in real time just listening to you. The need for the Black man and woman to be retaught, re-educated, and reformed, right? So teaches the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And when you're talking about the woman, he says 75% of his work is with the woman. Because when you teach a man, you teach an individual, but when you teach a woman, you teach a nation. That's right. Ma'am, in order for us to really foster our future, if y'all listening, okay, and it really for us to foster our future, we got to go back and pick up some of those things that's what we call either lost knowledge, hidden knowledge, or forgotten knowledge, right? Like things we just don't know and have. As I'm listening to you, I thank God for allowing me to hear his voice. It takes patience to build a new world, right? It takes patience to be able to sit at the well of our elders and drink from that well and have enough patience, because sometimes we want the water to just come on out, but it might say drip, drip, drip. But can you sit there with your cup and let your cup not only be filled, but run it over? And so as I'm listening to you, my cup runneth over because I'm also sitting as a student. As a young girl, I always like to sit around my grandmothers, right? And let them tell me stories. You understand? I would comb their hair and they would tell me stories. And when you said about the ancestor, I think just spiritually, innately, I'm just connected to my ancestors, bloodline, and the ancestors, those that fought in the spirit of freedom, justice, and equality. Because there is a difference. There's your ancestors' bloodline, but then there's the ancestors
Right,
for the
right.
movement. And I believe that I'm
That's right.
connected to
Absolutely.
both,
Yep.
which allows me the
That's
ear
right.
to listen to what you are saying in this divine time, in this divine moment when we're talking about healing. When you heal the woman, let me know if I'm right, Sister Empress. When you heal the woman, you heal the world. The woman is the
And that's
medicine.
right. That's a part of one of our slogans or mottos as well. And that's why we're saying, as we raise up the original mother, it is going to benefit the world. But we first have to deal with one another, each other as women. We've got to grow and develop. And this is what I say, take our rightful places. See, we've waited long enough for things to happen. And if you read some of the right, even with Mother Harriet Tubman, and right now we're in Familiar Woman World March. We have that as an event or an activity, but we also have the universal movement of the Million Woman March, which is a sisterhood. It's a movement. It has different components from A to Z. One of them is things that we do on an annual basis, some things that we do weekly, things that we do monthly. Right now, we're in what we call the Harriet Tubman hashtag 175.
Okay, I need to be a part of that. You see her back there.
All right. No, and that's why we say right now we're looking for at least 1 million members. 1 in a million. Because listen, we're saying we need land. We need the capability to purchase properties in some of these communities with all of this gentrification going on. We need to purchase some of these properties so that we have our own cultural centers, educational facilities. What about things for our elders in our community? We're not doing the work that others were doing and showed us that needs to be done. And so we're letting the system with 501s and all of that. And I'm not saying don't get a 501, but at the same time, we know that could dry up at any time, and which is what's happening now. We need our own everything. And so we're looking to have at least 1 million members by this year's anniversary of the Million Woman March. But again, going back to what we're saying here, family, we cannot allow not only ourselves, but what's happening with our children. What are we talking about doing that is really going to address some of these things that's going on with our children? You see, and so with us as women, as sisters, to come up with our own codes of conduct. How must we treat one another to the best of our abilities, starting with respect, and I mean basic stuff, things that we know are doable, things that we want to begin. For example, we're going to say to our sisters, if everyone agrees we shouldn't use the N-word, we're also going to ask our sisters for now and our brothers and everyone later, but let's start with our women. Stop calling our children kids. Please.
We don't know. Stop. We don't know. I didn't know it until I came in under the teachers of the Most High Elijah Muhammad that my children was not kids, because I said kids all day, every day. You know.
Most do, and they don't even know. Most do. And they don't even know that this is orchestrated into our system, into our psyche. And again, I know that, we can't control, I'm just saying that one word. I'm not trying to tell anybody, we can't change the vocabulary or the grammar or whatever, but that one word right there, just like the N word, I'm telling y'all, it's a dangerous thing that's going on. And we are infusing a kind of energy from that word into our children. And if you don't believe me, look at how they're acting right now, more so than any time you've ever seen. And I'm just suggesting a little bit of discipline, and let's just see what happens. I mean, what do we have to lose? Right, a little discipline.
Structure. We need that. And that's why, I can say I'm grateful for the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad under the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So let me ask you this question. We're going to get ready to wrap this up, family. And there's two more questions I would like to ask as we've gotten a
Sure.
great history lesson here. Great history lesson. And now I can see how you are taking the history to move it and further it for our future with this million woman global movement that you're actually right now
Yes.
on tour, right? To be able to gather up
Yep.
people to come to this global event that's going to happen in October. But before, and there's three things,
Right.
I mean, two things. One, as we listen to this history lesson, and we're talking about healing on purpose for the family unit with the focus on the woman, I would like for you to tell me 3 books that you would recommend that a person listening to this podcast that, you know, we need to go back and sit down, turn the phone off, turn the TV off, and even some of these podcasts and get into a book. As we've been taught, if you want to keep something away from the black man and women, put it in a book. So we're going to go ahead and we'll start eradicating that. Give me 3 books that you would recommend that one should read in this time period to help us with the history and continue to build our future. That was be my first question.
Wow, that's a loaded question. So I'm gonna say right off the cuff, in a more modern time, there's a scholar by the name of Amos Wilson. Amos Wilson was not only a psychologist, that was a serious black man, and he wrote incredible. One of his last books that I suggest that everyone read, it was called Black Power. You know, it's an incredible piece of work. And so that's not the full name. I'll pull up the full name for you, but definitely just click up Dr. Amos Wilson.
All right, y'all
Okay.
put that in the comments, Dr. Amos Wilson.
Yep. Okay. That is one. The other one, and I'm gonna get the correct name or spelling for you because it's an African name, and his name is Ishaka Musa Barashango. Ishaka Musa Barashango was in fact an ordained minister, but he also taught what was known as what they call liberation theology, right? He and others created this thought processing, because remember I told you I was a religion major, and so I in independent research I had to really study many of the greats prior to me. So Ishaka Musa Barashango wrote many books, but one of them talked about the great mother African woman. Okay, I'm going to try to pull up the exact title of that. But if you put in Ishaka Musa Barashango, and that's I, and Shaka is Shaka, then the next part is Musa, Musa, and here it comes the last part, Barashango, which is Barashango. So
Beautiful.
his name again is letter I period, Shaka Musa Barashango. He wrote a whole book on the greatness of the Black woman, the goddess of the universe. Okay. And this was maybe 25 more years ago he wrote that book. So that would be one of the book. Another book that always will come to mind, of course, is the great Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who wrote the ISIS papers, but I mean, it's so much that she wrote in so many other ways. But she talks about what was known as the Cress theory on color confrontation. She also wrote about the whole idea of melanin, the importance and the power of melanin. So these are just a few. Of course, there's Dr. John Henry Clark. There's, of course, Dr. Ben. So any of their books. Of course, you want to go to Cenk Diop. My favorite for Cenk Diop is Civilization and Barbarism. And my really favorite one is called Black Africa. So any of those books, and again, this is one of the things that we are also establishing for women, a book list that we will have available as a part of our sisterhood, recommended books. Some will be written specifically by Black women. Some will be about and written by any of our people, Black men, Black women, etc. These are some of the more responsible things that we feel we must begin to do as Black women. And in addition to creating our own marketplace. Can you imagine women from around the world having the capability to sell their own product? Because that's what we're working on with the Million Woman World Mark. Now with technology, any of our people, for the most part, have the capability to be their own entrepreneur. And so what we're putting together as a part of our network is the capability. We've talked with women in the Cameroon, Nigeria, Ghana, Jamaica, Trinidad, to now pull that together. This allows us to sell our products online. These are products that our women make. See, we don't want to just sell other people's stuff. That's not what business today means for us in that totality. So we have a component called In the Black 360, 365. And a lot of it focuses on our own product lines all over the country and parts of the world. This way, sisters that make earrings or make clothing or shea butter product that can sell their products through our network. So these are some of the things you'll hear us talk more about.
Beautiful. We're going to have to bring you back for a part 2 so we can keep abreast of how this is going. Definitely looking forward to continuing to further our relationship that we have started, and we will continue to cultivate it so that we can do greater works. As we wrap this up,
yes,
the Million Woman Global Movement. When is it? If you have the date, and where will it be?
Well, okay, well, it will take place in October. We're going to do a press conference soon, and it's going to be a week long, an entire week. There'll be a summit because, again, we want to make sure that issues are addressed. And so we are going to literally have sessions that puts plans of action or ready them for the next 5 years. There is now going to be something that is going to address, again, some of the various issues that we're talking about. For example, people have been raising an issue with the music industry. Well, why are we continuously depending on their system and their industry? Why can't we as women, as a people, have our own? So one of the things we're now doing is, sisters, do you have some music? Do you have some spoken word or some rap or some hip hop that is not degrading, that is not disgusting? Then we want to know. Because again, we're going to be going on tour. We want to know, send it, bring it. Before we close out, hopefully I can share our email address and other things. But
you sure can.
But again, this is what we're talking about doing. Go ahead, sister.
No, I say you sure can. Better yet, we're going to go ahead and do that now because I want to definitely make sure that they get your information. So where would you like for them to email you at?
You can email us, and the new website will be up soon. We're just finalizing a few major pieces because we want to make sure that we're including some of the countries that we want to be involved in this. So we're just waiting to get all of that ready. But they can email us at nationalmwm@aol.com, and that's national spelled out nationalmwm@aol.com, or you can send it directly to me at Empress Chi 7777@gmail.com. Again, Empress Chi 7777, 4 sevens, not 3, at gmail.com. And sis just put it up for you, right? Mm-hmm. Yep, and you can also text me. Okay, there it is.
I just put it up there now because I know we open to the world. So I do want to add a level of, a level of protection for you. Then we're going to give them your email address because you got your heart. You want to pour it to everybody. So we're going to go ahead and do that. National MWM@AOL.com. Go ahead and email my sister so that you can get the information and whatever it is that you want her to send you. Her email again is right here on the screen, National mwm@aol.com. This has been such a rewarding conversation. And as you go on tour, I am praying for your success. Your success is our success. And I can't wait to see the million more. Well, I'm sorry, say it again. Million
Million
woman.
woman world, million woman, because see, this is not million women. This is the trick that they played on us. We said the million man, they didn't say the million men, they said the million man march, right? Well, ours is the million woman because there's only one original woman. There's only one mother of civilization. So in that context is why we say the million woman world march. We are one, even though there's millions of us. In theory, in spirit, we are one. And so we're hoping that folks will become a member. You can be a support member starting with $1. You cannot beat that.
Yes,
this helps us to curtail costs as well as to implement some of our programs. And again, we're the ones that have to do this. We're not
happy here. Okay, yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So again, she was saying if you would like to support, you can support with $1. So go ahead and email her at nationalmwm@aol.com. Well, it has been absolutely a blessing to have you here on the program as we look forward to hearing more about this. I can't wait to connect to you. I'm going to pull you back into the waiting room as I do the closing remarks. Is there anything else that you would like to say?
Can I just mention one thing? I do. And for those who do not know, I have on a shirt and it says, I don't know if it says innocent. You see, again, we have different hats and there's different causes and so forth. But this is a Black man who has been incarcerated for more than 40 years. His name is Mumia Abu-Jamal. We must get him freed. And so again, if you email me, we'll send you some specifics, but he has been incarcerated. He is innocent and it's time that he comes home. We have a Recharge Genocide campaign that we are issuing nationwide and also to the United Nations, because for those who are talking about reparations, we don't just want to make sure that this government hears our demands. We want the world to hear our demands. So again, when you email us, if you want more information, we'll certainly provide you with that and then some.
Thank you, Sister Empress. And we truly enjoyed you and we enjoyed the history lesson today. All right. Shout out to the Million Women March. There's now a million one man global movement. Can't wait to hear more about that. I'm going to go ahead and pull you in the back. All right.
All right.
Well, y'all, there you have it. Heal on Purpose. We right here with Coach Nayera, providing another episode to help you to heal on purpose. As we go back and look at our history, we must be able to take the lessons of those times and apply it right now in today's time to build and create a bigger and better future. I'm super, super excited as we get ready to close out to announce to everyone that's on here, hosted by the Repair of the Black Family. You heard the history lesson right now in present time. Sister Nayera and Brother David, we are hosting our annual Freedom Weekend Survival and Expansion right here in Clearwater, Florida, June 20th through the 23rd. Be in the room. In Clearwater, Florida, we are going to have a 3-day weekend that will focus on mindset, family, business, global networking. In the room, as you can see, we have some very powerful speakers that's going to bring you information or bring you knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that you can walk away with and apply while having a spiritual retreat with Brother David and Sister Nayera. We do it like no other people do it. We're going to have 4 days right here in Clearwater, Florida, all inclusive, a spiritual retreat. You want to know more information about this, go ahead and text 727-623-5555 and put in the comments or a text message or in the comments right here, Freedom Weekend, and I will send you all of the information. Or you can call 727-222-7830. Ask or say you want to be in the room with Brother David and Sister Nair, Freedom Weekend. And we're super, super excited because this year we're going to have our keynote address speaker, Brother Nuri Muhammad. So I am super excited. I'm pumped about this. I cannot wait to see those who will come to Clearwater, Florida, and be with us. And as we leave, we always say this: heal on purpose. To repair the Black family is to repair humanity. Thank you all for listening. Peace.